LaMelo Ball, game winner, hero. But before that shot dropped, he had already put a man on the floor and ended a franchise's season with his bare hands. The NBA called it violence. The real question the league is desperately trying to avoid is how many times a player does something before fine stops being the punishment and banned becomes the only honest answer. The night the NBA snapped. It was April 14th, 2026, Charlotte, North Carolina, the Spectrum Center. Inside that building, the energy was different. Different in the way only a must-win game can make it. Thick, electric, a little desperate. The kind of atmosphere that gets under your skin before the opening tip even drops. The Charlotte Hornets were hosting the Miami Heat in the NBA play-in tournament. One team would keep their season alive, the other would go home, tonight, in front of everybody. The Heat came in as the 9 seed in the Eastern Conference. Just getting to this moment had taken everything they had. And their survival, their entire chance at a postseason, was built around one player more than anyone else. Bam Adebayo, their center, their anchor, their best defensive player by a comfortable margin. A man who, as Tyler Hero would later say in his post-game comments, is one of the toughest, most pain-resistant players in the entire league. If the Heat were going to get through the night, Bam needed to be on the floor. That was not a negotiable variable. That was the foundation of everything Miami was trying to do. LaMelo Ball, on the other side of all of this, was coming into the game in the best shape of his career. The 2025-26 season had been a revelation for him. 72 games played, a personal record of 50 consecutive appearances at one point during the year, the kind of durability that LaMelo had simply never demonstrated across his first 5 NBA seasons. He was averaging 20.1 points, 7.1 assists, and 4.8 rebounds per game. He was healthy. He was locked in. He was playing on his home court in front of a fan base that had been waiting for a night exactly like this one for years. The Spectrum Center was shaking. The first half was everything you'd want from a game with this much on the line. Hard-fought, physical, back and forth, neither team willing to flinch, both sides trading blows, both sides finding answers when the other side made a move. Exactly the kind of competitive basketball that reminds you why postseason games hit different. And then, somewhere around the 11-minute mark of the second quarter, a sequence unfolded that changed the entire night. Not just the score, not just the momentum, the entire conversation around what this game even was. LaMelo Ball drove to the basket. His shot got blocked, a clean block, the kind of play that happens dozens of times in every NBA game. He fell backward and hit the floor. Again, completely routine, a quick fall, the kind every single player in the league takes in stride, shakes off, and moves on from. But what happened in the next 2 seconds is where everything stopped being routine. While Ball was still on his back on the hardwood, Bam Adebayo was scrambling for the loose ball, lunging forward, off balance, trying to keep it from going out of bounds. He was right there in front of LaMelo, and LaMelo, flat on his back, looking up at the play unfolding directly above him, reached out with his left arm and grabbed Bam Adebayo's right ankle, his plant leg, the one thing keeping him upright. Adebayo had no chance. He came crashing down, hard, not a soft landing, not a controlled fall, a crash. He hit the hardwood directly on his lower back and tailbone region, and the way he grabbed at his back the moment he landed, the grimace on his face, the stillness of someone trying to process how much pain they're in, it told you everything you needed to know before a single commentator said a word.
Bam Adebayo has been ruled out of tonight's play-in game versus Charlotte after what many are calling a dirty play by LaMelo Ball, after his leg was grabbed and Bam fell really hard down to the floor.
Dr. Brian Suter, a sports medicine expert who went deep on the injury in a detailed breakdown, explained exactly why a fall like this is so much more dangerous than it might look to a casual viewer. The sacrum, the large triangular bone that sits at the base of the spine, connecting the spine to the pelvis, is one of the most vulnerable areas of the human body when it comes to direct impact, particularly in lean, heavily muscled athletes where body fat levels are low enough to offer almost no natural cushioning over the bone itself. Your glutes provide some protection, and here is the nuance that matters, the detail that got lost in a lot of the immediate hot takes. Bam Adebayo was already falling before LaMelo ever grabbed him. He was off balance, reaching for the ball, leaning backward. His momentum was already working against him, but by reaching out and taking away his plant leg, by removing his one tool for bracing himself and reducing the impact, LaMelo Ball made what might have been a controlled stumble into a full, unguarded crash landing on one of the least protected areas of the human body.
He's not able to. As he falls, he lands square directly on his backside, potentially suffering injuries to the sacrum, the coccyx, or the low back.
The injury risk here was not theoretical. A sacral fracture, a severe bone bruise, or a coccyx fracture are all realistic outcomes from an impact of that kind. And the insidious thing about injuries in that region of the body is that they do not always show up on a standard X-ray. You need an MRI, sometimes a CT scan. The Heat's medical staff working courtside did not have any of that available in the moment, which meant their decision to hold Adebayo out was made based almost entirely on how much pain he was in. And the answer was enough that he could not continue. Adebayo was ruled out for the rest of the game after just 11 minutes on the floor. He did not return in the second half. He did not return in overtime. Miami, already fighting an uphill battle, already in a must-win situation, already needing everything to go right, were now doing the impossible, trying to beat a talented home-court energized Charlotte team without the player their entire identity was built around. And none of this, not a single second of it, resulted in a foul call at the time it happened. Referee Curtis Blair was standing directly over the play when LaMelo grabbed the ankle. He saw it. He had a decision to make, and the decision he made was to let it go. No flagrant, no regular foul, no whistle. LaMelo Ball stayed on the court, and the game played on as though nothing had happened. What followed over the rest of regulation and through overtime was its own separate kind of drama. The Heat, to their enormous credit, showed resolve that surprised a lot of people. They were down 4 at halftime and managed to claw back into it without their best player, eventually forcing overtime. They had their chances, they had their moments, but with 4.7 seconds left in overtime, tied at 126, LaMelo Ball drove to the rim, absorbed contact from Jaime Haka on the arm, contact that itself went uncalled, and somehow made the layup anyway. Charlotte won 127 to 126. Miami's season was done. And then LaMelo Ball walked over to the microphone. He apologized. He said he got hit in the head during the sequence. He said he didn't really know where he was. He said he was going to check on Bam and make sure he was okay. And then they pressed him because the replays were already playing on every screen in the building, and they did not look like the actions of a disoriented player who had no idea what was happening. He hadn't seen the replay. That was his answer. He hadn't watched it back yet. He got hit in the head. He didn't know where he was. He was sorry. Just playing basketball. In the same breath as an apology for a play that knocked your opponent's best player out of a win-or-go-home game in the second quarter with no chance to return, the internet heard that. The media heard that. And by the time the replays had been watched a few million times and the outrage had fully built overnight, the calls for real consequences were deafening. When a reporter followed up and asked whether he had been evaluated for a concussion, since he had just spent several minutes insisting he had no idea where he was on the floor, the response was memorable for all the wrong reasons. He didn't know how concussions worked, might have had one before, wasn't sure. The same post-game appearance also contained enough profanity during a live broadcast to earn him a separate $25,000 fine from the league before everything was settled. This was the night Charlotte punched their ticket to the next round of the play-in. This was the night Miami went home. This was the night a clip of LaMelo Ball on his back, reaching out and grabbing Bam Adebayo's ankle, became the most discussed moment in the entire NBA postseason, and what the league was about to announce as their official response. The number, the designation, the decision on whether LaMelo would miss even a single game was about to make all of this significantly louder. The fallout that shook the league. The morning after is never quiet when something like this happens. Social media was already at a full boil before most people had finished their first cup of coffee. The clip was everywhere. Every sports account, every NBA fan page, every casual basketball follower who happened to open their phone and check their feed, every angle, every slow motion replay. And while the internet rage was doing what internet rage does, the reaction that actually mattered, the one people were waiting for, came from the man with the most right to be furious. Eric Spoelstra is not a coach who loses his composure publicly. He is Miami Heat through and through, measured, composed, disciplined in his public-facing communication in a way that very few coaches at his level manage to be. He doesn't give bulletin board material. He doesn't light up opponents in press conferences. He is the kind of coach who chooses every single word so deliberately and carefully that when something sharp does come out of his mouth, you know he has thought about it, and you know he means it completely. He kept going. I don't think that belongs in the game. Tripping guys, shenanigans, somebody's got to see that. He should have been thrown out of the game for that. Stupid, dangerous, no place in the game, should have been thrown out. These are not words Eric Spoelstra uses loosely. That was a man who was genuinely, specifically, and articulately furious, and who was also careful enough to note more than once that the play itself was not the only reason Miami lost. His team had opportunities, they had good looks, they had moments where they could have stolen it even without Bam. He made all of that abundantly clear, but he was equally clear that losing your best and most irreplaceable player to a play like that on a call that an official was standing directly over and chose not to make was something the game simply could not accept. And Spoelstra was not standing alone on this. Udonis Haslem, who has more Miami Heat identity embedded in him than perhaps any human alive, a man who wore that jersey for the better part of 2 decades, was watching the game in real time and gave his assessment of the play immediately. That's a measured read. Haslem not calling LaMelo a dirty player, not calling it malicious or premeditated, but calling it a decision and pointing the finger squarely at the official for failing to do his job in one of the most critical moments of a playoff game. He said point blank that something had to be called, a flagrant, a regular foul, something, because the referee was right there, directly over the play, and he let it go as if nothing had happened. Over at ESPN, the conversation was expanding into something significantly larger. Stephen A. Smith, who, at this point in his career, has made himself the de facto loudest voice on any NBA controversy of significance, came in the next morning with a take that was more layered than his reputation might lead you to expect. Stephen A. broke the play down methodically. He acknowledged the hit to the head LaMelo took during the sequence. He acknowledged the disorientation argument as at least plausible. Definitely swiped, not accidentally contacted, not incidentally brushed, definitely swiped. Stephen A. made clear he was not disputing what happened, only the level of appropriate response. His argument was contextual. In the second quarter of a play-in game, with a franchise-caliber star on the court, ejecting LaMelo Ball over a play of that nature would have caused its own enormous controversy. Officials are human. Ejections in moments like that change games forever, and making that call in the second quarter without having the benefit of slow-motion replay is an enormous ask of a referee in real time. But then Stephen A. said something that cut through every nuanced debate and landed squarely on the emotional reality of what Miami was living through. I don't give a damn about his apology. In that moment, we go home. Our season is over. You took out one of our best players, clearly our best defensive player. You took him out. That is the rawest, most unfiltered version of what Heat fans were feeling. The apology, however sincere LaMelo might have been when he gave it, means functionally nothing when your season is finished and your best player is in the locker room getting evaluated for a potential back fracture. The sincerity of the apology does not bring the season back. As of April 16th, 2026, there was no public confirmation of whether LaMelo actually followed through and reached out to Adebayo privately. Bam himself had not made any public statement about the play or any contact from Ball. The apology existed in a public vacuum, and Miami's players and fan base were not in any emotional state to receive it warmly regardless. Meanwhile, the NBA was not wasting any time. The league had opened a formal investigation, reaching out to both teams and interviewing LaMelo Ball directly as part of the review process. The internal language circulating through league insiders was not encouraging for those hoping LaMelo would sit out Charlotte's next game. Reporters like Brian Windhorst and Shams Charania were both flagging that the league was unlikely to go as far as a suspension, but that the retroactive Flagrant 2 upgrade was coming, and with it, the largest fine of this particular episode. On April 15th and 16th, 2026, the NBA released its official ruling. The play was retroactively upgraded to a Flagrant Foul 2, which meant that had it been called live and in real time, LaMelo Ball would have been automatically ejected from the second quarter of a play-in game. The league described it as unnecessary and reckless contact that created a significant injury risk. For that contact, LaMelo was fined $35,000. The live broadcast profanity added another $25,000. Total fines, $60,000. No suspension. LaMelo Ball was fully eligible and expected to start in Charlotte's next play-in game against the Orlando Magic on Friday. The reaction to this ruling from around the league was immediate and, in some corners, blistering. An anonymous NBA general manager reportedly texted media members, "This guy's got to get suspended, right?" That is a peer of LaMelo Ball's front office, someone with standing in the league, texting reporters because they felt the ruling was insufficient. And when you do the math on that $60,000 total against LaMelo's annual salary, approximately $37.96 million for the 2025-26 season, what you get is a fine that represents less than 0.2% of what he earns in a single year. For context, if the average American earning $50,000 annually committed an equivalent proportional offense, it would cost them roughly $80. Miami was going home. Bam's injury was still being fully evaluated, and what nobody had fully examined yet, at least not in the depth it deserved, was whether this was actually as isolated as the NBA's ruling made it sound. Because for people who had been watching LaMelo Ball closely all season, this moment on the floor with Bam Adebayo was not something that had come from nowhere. The pattern, the history, and what it all means. Here is what gets consistently buried in the noise of a moment like this: the context. When the clip of LaMelo reaching out and grabbing Bam Adebayo's ankle went viral and the outrage machine kicked into full gear, the narrative was framed, deliberately or not, around a single incident: a bad play, a reckless decision in the chaos of a high-stakes game, a disoriented player reaching for something in a moment of confusion. And that framing is exactly what the NBA leaned on when they chose $60,000 over a suspension. But the timeline tells a more complicated story than that. Earlier in the very same 2025-26 regular season, LaMelo Ball received a flagrant foul for what observers described as a similar ankle-targeting motion, a swipe at Jabari Smith Jr.'s ankle and leg area, while on the floor during a game against the Houston Rockets. The same general motion, the same body position, the same result: contact flagged after review. The league noted it, filed it, added the points to his flagrant total, and moved on. No suspension, just a flagrant foul in a moment that most casual fans forgot about within a week. Then came April 14th, and it was not just the Jabari Smith moment that Heat fans were digging up in the immediate aftermath. Multiple sources and reports noted that this was apparently not even the first time during this same season that Ball had made a similar type of contact against Bam Adebayo specifically. Heat fans went into the archives immediately after the play-in game and surfaced footage from earlier in the season showing a comparable moment between the same two players: a swipe at the ankle, contact that in complete isolation might look like an accident, but when placed alongside the play-in footage, takes on a quality that is much harder to dismiss as coincidental. And then there is the moment that predates LaMelo Ball's entire NBA career, the one that resurfaces every single time his name gets attached to a dirty play conversation. October 1st, 2018, a Junior Basketball Association exhibition game in Lithuania. LaMelo Ball, 17 years old, playing in his father LeVar Ball's JBA League International Tour, drives and loses the ball out of bounds. An opponent from BC Dzūkija, Mindaugas Šušinskas, taps LaMelo on the back of the head in a taunting gesture. And LaMelo's response? He turned around and slapped the man directly in the face. Not a shove, not a verbal exchange. A slap, clean, direct, in front of the cameras, in front of everybody. It sparked a bench-clearing brawl involving both teams, a chaotic shoving match that went viral the moment the footage surfaced. LaMelo was ejected. The clip traveled everywhere. Now, to apply some fairness to this, the JBA was not an official professional league in any formal sense. There was no long-term ban from anything that mattered. He was 17 years old. Most human beings do something regrettable at 17 that they would handle differently at 24. The reasonable argument is that you draw a hard line between a teenager's impulsive reaction in an exhibition game and an NBA star's actions in a professional playoff context. And that is a fair argument to make. The comparisons being drawn in the immediate aftermath of the ruling were not flattering for the league's consistency record. The Draymond Green parallel was the most common one raised, and for good reason. Draymond Green has one of the most extensively documented flagrant foul histories in recent NBA memory: a 5-game suspension in 2023 for stepping on Domantas Sabonis's chest in the playoffs, multiple ejections across multiple seasons, a pattern of physical play that escalated in its punishments, specifically because the league kept detailed records and applied progressive discipline. LaMelo Ball's situation, as of April 2026, does not yet approach that level of documented history, but the building blocks are assembling in a way that should not be ignored. The broader disciplinary context around the Charlotte Hornets franchise itself added an additional layer of discomfort to the whole conversation. Hornets forward Miles Bridges received a 30-game suspension in 2023 following a domestic violence case, a decision that was widely discussed in terms of where the league draws its lines and how serious those interventions are. Watching that same franchise's current star player grab an opponent's ankle in a play-in game, injure him badly enough to end his night and possibly his postseason, and walk away with $60,000 in fines and full eligibility for the next game. The dissonance in that picture was not subtle, and it was not lost on anyone who had been paying attention. So what does all of this actually mean for LaMelo Ball going forward? In the immediate, practical short term, essentially nothing. He played in Charlotte's next game against Orlando. He remained the franchise's undisputed cornerstone, the face of everything the Hornets are trying to build, the reason fans show up to the Spectrum Center, the reason Charlotte is even relevant in the NBA conversation right now. His 5-year, approximately $204 million rookie max extension is completely untouched. His career averages of approximately 20.7 points, 7.3 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game remain the foundation of everything the organization is building toward. $60,000 is a footnote, less than 0.2% of his annual earnings. It does not change his behavior through financial deterrence. It barely registers as a number. But the longer play, the thing that matters more than the fine and more than the headlines, is the question of what the league does the next time this happens. Because the NBA's flagrant foul system is explicitly cumulative. Accumulating flagrant foul points across a season eventually triggers automatic suspensions. LaMelo already had the Jabari Smith flagrant on the books this season. Now he carries a retroactive flagrant 2 from the play-in. Referees across the league will now be watching him with a different set of eyes, and any future moment where he is on the floor with an opponent's ankle in reach will be called immediately, without the benefit of a slow-motion review and a retroactive designation 24 hours later. That is the unofficial tax that attaches itself to a player once a reputation forms around a specific type of play. LaMelo Ball is 24 years old. He just completed the most durable and consistent season of his career. He has a career high of 50 points against the Milwaukee Bucks. He has demonstrated a clutch gene under the biggest pressure moments of Charlotte's postseason push. He has the kind of passing ability and court vision that makes him genuinely, legitimately elite at the thing he does best. None of that changes because of a $60,000 fine and a retroactive flagrant 2. None of it goes away. What we know right now, on April 16th, 2026, is this. Bam Adebayo went home with an injury still being evaluated. The Miami Heat went home without a postseason. LaMelo Ball went home to prepare for another game. And $60,000, in a league where franchise players earn $37 million a year, is the number the NBA decided to attach to what it officially called unnecessary and reckless contact that created a significant injury risk. Make of that number what you will.